Hi, this is Chimes Media and I'm James Williams. Okay, well, what's been dominating much of the news across the world has been the United States midterm elections and is there going to be a red wave, blue wave, whatever? Well, it was like as someone's described, a bit of a puddle, really, wasn't it? The results, they're not all in even at this stage. There's some, I think Alaska takes forever to count up, it takes about 2 weeks or something. But generally speaking, if you don't know, the US Senate is made up of two senators from each state. Okay, it doesn't matter the size of the state, two senators for each state. And so they have 100, because there's 50 states, there's 100 senators. Half of them up this time for election or re-election if they can. And so anyway, what's happened is that usually the incumbent party, that's the one who holds the presidency, loses in all accounts. People have had enough of elections, they sit back and don't bother turning up to vote. That's what normally happens. In this case, as far as the Senate's concerned, the Republicans, which did have 51 to 49 majority, looks like they've picked up 54, made 54 Senate seats. To 46 Democrats, maybe even 55. There's still outstanding elections being counted, but let's say 54. That's a significant gain for President Trump. It means he can get his appointees, which have been held up by the opposition for the last 2 years. People have been appointed to various positions. They have to be approved by the Senate. It means he can actually have a much better chance of getting these people through, because there are gaps in the administration, not his fault, but there are positions which have not been filled because of the opposition to Trump, just the personal opposition to Trump. They call him a sexist racist. They've got no evidence of that. He's not done anything worse than anybody else. They compare him. They say, "Oh, he's a terrible. He's a tyrant. He's Hitler." A mono character. It's just unbelievable. He said about the Mexicans, for example, right back in his campaign for election, in his primaries. Yeah, well, they don't send their best, which is correct. I mean, what's wrong with that? That's not racist. The best people tend to migrate normally and through proper means. So, they've called him everything under the sun. And what's he done? He hasn't created any new wars. Obama, through his drone strike policy, dropped 20,000 bombs on the Middle East. Where was the outcry for that from the Democrats? 20,000 bombs. And they've since looked at it. And more than 75% of the casualties were civilian casualties. They were non-combatants. Over 75%. Imagine if Trump had killed anything like that. They'd have been all over the place. He hasn't done anything like that. Instead, he's brought peace to Korea. He's sorted out trade deals. He's stood up and he's bringing jobs back, factories, all the rest of it. So he's done pretty well. And in fact, in his campaigning in this time, I think he said he had 30 rallies in the last 60 days, which is pretty good going. He's over 70, for heaven's sake, and he does pretty well. But those that he didn't go where he wasn't invited, the people who were campaigning those areas wanted Trump, wanted his support, and it benefited them. Most of them got through. I think it was like 9 out of 11 got through, that sort of thing, which is a good score. And those that tended to fail were the ones who were non-Trumpers, weren't prepared to promote the successes that he's been governorship over, that he's created. So, it's I don't know, politics in America as well as in Britain and anywhere else is in upheaval. But what gets me is the amount of money. Was that Beto O'Rourke, the Democrat candidate who lost against Ted Cruz? Was it $70 million raised? 70 million. They didn't come out of grandma's savings, did they? This is the Democrats, supported by corporate entities, massive entities, AT&T and people like that. Was it Times Warner and God knows who else, and plus all the blockbuster billionaire Hollywood elite. How are they associated with ordinary working class people in America? They're so far apart, they might as well be on Mars. And the Democrat sort of sells itself as we're like a socialist, we care about the work. It's a load of nonsense, isn't it? It really is. I know what it is to be. George Orwell declared himself a socialist, but he couldn't relate to the sort of, Labour Party, the socialists that were trying to represent the working classes at the time. And he worked out in the end that it wasn't that they loved the working classes, the poorer people. They just hated the rich more. That was their impetus. And if you see what's going on, like with the Democrat Party, and we have the same thing over in Britain, with Labour and Conservatives. You look from one to the other, both sides look like pigs to me, using Orwell's terms. The animal farm, the free-minded animals were looking through the window of the farmhouse, and the pigs, which had taken over from the farmer, were sat there with the original farmer, and they looked at one and the other, and they all looked the same. They'd become the same. So they just replaced one tyranny with another. And anyway, so the results looks like the Senate it'll be 54 seats, as I say. The Republicans didn't do so well in the House, but there was about 45, 46 retirements, and usually if you're an incumbent, you have an advantage over the challenger. So there was a disadvantage there, and plus the natural swing anyway. It wasn't. It was a brilliant win in the Senate, but not quite so good in the House of Representatives, and but it gives the Democrats a minority, a small advantage. Well, if you look at, I think it was Obama in his first term, he lost 70 seats and Clinton lost 60. So Trump's loss looks like about 27, 28 under his regime. But then again, I blame that Paul Ryan, who was the Speaker of the House, because he was a no-Trumper. And he, like I said, some of these Democrats who lost I should say those areas, they weren't sort of playing the strong cards of the Republicans, the economy and all that stuff. And don't know what was going in there. They're very complicated races. Some of them. Some of the Democrats, some of the Republican candidates, campaigned very hard. But when you look at the money poured in, the Democrats get 3-4 times as much money pouring in from corporate entities. The so-called socialist Democrats, getting help from the big capitalists. Just doesn't make any sense, does it? Well, anyway, that. Now, in this thing, they found out, and I think it's under investigation, the whole Democrat Party in the state of Georgia is under investigation for voter fraud. That's interesting, isn't it? They were trying to get the registrar of the registry lists and stuff, and the aim of that would be to challenge what they know to be Republican supporters and knock them out. So they're under investigation. That's going to be interesting. I think there's something going on in Texas, one or two others. And now I wanted to say, the Attorney General has tendered his resignation, been accepted. In actual fact, he was ineffective. He recused himself of the Russia probe. Here he is, the Attorney General. He's got a very responsible position. The FBI and the CIA are in all kinds of crises. Where was he? He didn't do anything. He was as silent as the hills, wasn't he? He didn't get involved at all in sorting out the crisis. There's a crisis of confidence in the CIA and the FBI. It's not that everybody in the FBI and the CIA are crooks, of course, but the top ones were completely corrupt. And where was he? He should have been involved in that, sorting that out, straightening them out, putting them on the, putting things correctly. But he didn't get involved at all. He was useless. Useless. Now, the entertaining thing, I suppose you could call it, Jim Acosta, the dreaded CNN reporter, and I find him so obnoxious. He's so narcissistic, so full of himself, own self-righteousness. Well, he got banned. He's been banned. What he said is his press pass withdrawn. because he had a clash with an intern, which is, you know, there's a woman there, a young woman. She's there to take the microphone around to different questions in the media talk, and he wouldn't give up, that he wouldn't surrender the mic. And in fact, he did lay a hand on her. He put his hand across, and we'll show you. You can see for yourself.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN,
right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President. If I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
That's enough.
Mr. President,
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
But what a pig ignorant piece of garbage he is. How can he go on like this? I don't care what you say about Trump. He was quite right. Why is that clown working for any organisation, let alone CNN? It's just appalling, isn't it? You know, the manner of him is, there's absolutely no respect in the man whatsoever. I've seen his questions; they're so loaded with venom and hatred. He can't see anything good about what's gone on in the world. You know, he doesn't want to talk about peace. You know, he's one of these ones who, I don't say it's him, but they've been this saying, you know, Trump's peace with Korea, ending the Korean conflict, which has gone on for 70 years. And all they'll say is, well, why is it taking so long? Well, it's taken 70 years for previous presidents to do nothing. And Trump's done an amazing job in that respect. Anyway, that's enough for now. Until next time, take care of yourself.
Jim Acosta clearly crossed the line, and this girl was only doing her job. I don't blame her one bit. This is all Jim Acosta's fault. First of all, it's all about him. Anytime he is in this press room, I served in the press room for about 3 months when Trump first took office. It was an absolute circus, and it's gotten worse now. It's all about these agenda-driven, left-wing so-called reporters. They're supposed to be reporting news and facts, but they're not. It's all about them getting the headlines and getting in the news.
You are fake news.